Okay, so this video ain't gonna be too long, but I really felt that I needed to get this off my chest and really just let it out there for the world. Because I've been, for the last few weeks, going through some stuff in my personal life and kind of just reevaluating everything with my life. Like, just I got a lot going on in my life, you know what I'm saying? And it started making me think about, I guess, my future, a little bit of my past, and a lot of different aspects about who I am as a person, and kind of something that I just felt like I needed to address. Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts because I don't really know how to approach this one. But I was talking with some of my peoples, and I was hearing them out uh, the other day, and there was something there that was said that really just made me look at life in a whole different aspect and made me look at the world in a whole different aspect. And it really just brought me to this point where I just feel like I gotta say I don't care anymore. Because my peoples was venting to me, not even necessarily venting to me, but just more so just telling me a few things about their relationship, telling me a few things about that their partner essentially does a lot of different things that sometimes they don't agree with, or shall I say, sometimes they look at like, whoa, because essentially their partner is kind of like similar to a lot of us in a way, like into nerdy habits as far as, collectibles and figures and things like that, right? And, you know, for the most part, my people's really accepts it and is like really cool with it and rocks with it, and it's like, yo, everybody has their own quirks, everybody has their own things that they're into, um, and it was just like, whatever. So my people's wasn't really tripping over it or anything like that. But then they told me that while they was like, I guess talking or whatever, they were pretty much like FaceTiming or face to face, somewhere in that realm, and pretty much that dude pulled out some of his figures and essentially started like playing with them, like, like how we used to do back in the days when we was younger, and just started having them go at it with one another. And honestly, my peoples didn't know how to feel about that because, mind you, societal norm says that that's, either for little kids or people that are quote unquote mentally challenged, right? But the whole thing that changed my people's perspective, I believe, during that exchange was my response and my reaction. Because upon hearing that, I was just so enamored with just like admiration and looking at it like, oh my gosh, that is just one of the most bravest things, one of the most courageous things, one of the most being real and being yourself things that you can do in the most unapologetic way. Because, you know what I'm saying, doing something like that when you're talking to your partner is something that could be a major turnoff, right? Like some people in particular, well, I don't even want to just single out women, men and women, just depending on the person, might look down on you for something like that. But that could be detrimental. You know what I'm saying? And my peoples was just kind of there, like, like I don't know, that it, if it wasn't for necessarily my response and a new perspective outside of societal norms, I think my peoples for the most part would have looked at it like, oh my gosh, that's too much, you know what I mean? But again, upon my response, my biggest reaction and takeaway from it was, oh my god, yo, that like homie is just really himself unapologetically. And I was so inspired and I was so enamored with, again, the fact of like, yo, be yourself. unapologetically, whatever it is that it may be. Whether it be that you like to collect figures, you like to play with figures. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, so, something that I took from that is, again, who cares? I don't care anymore what anybody thinks about anything that I do, as long as I know my intentions, as long as I know where my heart is at, as long as I know, end of the day, I'm a good person. Why do I care about what people think? It reminded me of my past in a way. It reminded me of a version of me many eons ago where, I used to get on this camera, whether it be 4 in the morning or 4 in the afternoon, sometimes not even wiping the coals out my eyes, and talk about the latest whatever chapter or episode, something like that. I didn't care whether people were going to laugh at me. I didn't care whether people were going to feel a type of way about me. I just was me. You know what I mean? Unapologetically. And for people that followed my journey, you've seen that, a part of my past was that I just did whatever it was that I felt needed to be done. I was myself, and ultimately I went for it. Say hi, Toka. I say all that to say that I think a part of that version of myself was the one that got it right. You know what I'm saying? The part of that past version of myself was the one that got it right. That even now, like, I hear this story of homie that he's there playing with his things, and like, motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? Personally, don't do that. But there's still a version of me somewhere that it seems like a fun idea. It seems like a cool idea. Sometimes I do wrestling stuff when I'm bored and I'm sitting at an appointment or something. I do wrestling stuff with my fingers. I'd be like, suplex, boom, rock bottom, boom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'd be doing wrestling with my fingers because that's still a version of me inside somewhere that still enjoys that stuff. It's just I'm doing it more discreet, and homie is just like not even caring. Homie is face to face with his, significant other and just whipping out the toys and playing and not really caring. And it was at that moment that I just felt like, I don't care anymore. I'm going to come and go as I please. I'm going to do what I want. I know I'm intelligent enough to know what's right and wrong. I know I'm a good enough person to know what's right and wrong. And yeah, like, for the people that may be out there always nervous to make their next step, their next move, or is always hiding certain stuff from their past, as far as stuff like whether maybe there's just a video of you being silly and dancing or something and you scared, whoa, imagine that went viral, everybody's gonna laugh at me. But that moment of them laughing at you and going viral might be a big, significant piece of your story that could take you to another level and allow you to meet people and have experiences that you never would have had if it wasn't for that one moment of people laughing at your silly video of you dancing. Stop being afraid to be yourself in a truly authentic way, because there's nothing more that I've heard in recent times that was more truly authentic and fearless than when I heard this guy with his significant other just whipping out figures and playing with the figures like, Dragon Ball Z style or whatever it was. Like, just admiration. And yeah, be yourself. I don't care anymore.